Welcome back to another Clifton Cameras video, and today we've got something a little different and, dare I say, a little special for you guys. I'm here in Richmond Park, London, where I met up with a professional wildlife photographer who was going to talk us through his transition to the Canon R system, as well as giving us some amazing hints and tips along the way. Now, this video didn't turn out as I thought it would. It was supposed to be me and Felix sort of talking to each other as we were going around to different locations, but it didn't work out that way. I figured pretty quickly it was better for me to just get behind the camera and actually document what he was doing. But without further ado, I'm going to let him introduce himself so that I don't butcher his name, and then we're going to get straight into it because we've got a lot to get through in this video. This is going to be a good one. I think you're going to enjoy it. Don't know why I clapped.
Hi everyone, my name is Felix Belloin and I'm today with Clifton Cameras in association with Canon UK, and I'm going to take you on a quick tour of my local nature reserve, Richmond Park, to talk to you about the R system and how I use it for my wildlife photography, and hopefully along the way share some tips and tricks that I use for my own photography. So come along and let's see what we can get.
So we've just arrived at our first location. It's just coming up to 6 a.m. Felix.
Hi, yeah.
Why are we here this early?
Well, you know, I chose Richmond Park because it's a very accessible place for people to get to, but on a weekend it gets quite busy. Yep. So I thought it would be nice to beat the crowds, but that's reason number one. Reason number two is I like to be on my location early, so I get to find the animal I want to photograph before the night gets good. Sure. So this morning we're not really lucky. We've had a really big bank of clouds on the east blocking the sunrise, right. Which is not a problem. We'll have some nice diffuse lights in the morning. Yep. But so we stopped here for the first occasion because I noticed lots of very tame birds by the water's edge. And what I quite like, you know, people associate wildlife photography with really big lenses, and we'll get to that in a moment because it is important. Yep. But we also have really good tools in the wide angle section. So this is,
say you're using a 2870 there.
Yes, this is an oddball for wildlife, but if you manage to get close, it gives you results that you cannot get with anything else. People associate it to sort of the medium format 3D pop look, right. Which I tend to agree because with the f2 constant aperture, the low level of light here doesn't matter, and you get this really nice subject separation despite the wide angle. Nice. So my approach to this is always to get as low as possible, close to the subject, let it come to you, and then make full advantage of the wide angle and get that animal in the middle of its setting. Nice. But yes, this is my secret weapon, so hopefully the secret is out now, we'll see. Well,
we're going to see some of those results now, and while we're doing that, we're going to take advantage of this light that's coming up, and we'll see you for the next shot.
Sounds good. So this time of year you've got the chicks in the park. So this is a family of Egyptian geese. I think she started with 9 and they're down to 5, which is not unusual. They get predated on by foxes and herons, but it's nice to see that these ones are doing well. To carry on with the wide angle theme, I think it always pays off to get really close to wildlife. And so here I'm just waiting to see if they'll come my way, which is the best way of approaching wildlife, is to let them come close and then use the 70-200, which is a great focal length for the medium range, and gives you this nice subject separation with a bit of the environment. So I'll just wait here for a minute and see where they go, and I'll go with them and try and get some nice low to the ground portraits. As luck would have it, going straight for the cameraman. The reason why I'm on the ground at the moment is because you want to connect with your subject, and so you want to get down to their perspective. And so when you're such a small gosling, your perspective is rarely higher up than a couple of inches off the ground. And so if you want to get to eye level, you need to go down. With wildlife, really important to remember, no sudden moves. They don't like surprises. They seem comfortable with me at a distance, so I'll work it here. So I don't know if you just saw, but when the Jaguar landed, the parent was immediately out there chasing it, and you could hear the alarm calls. And none of this was happening with me on the ground. So that's when you know you're doing something right, because you're not disturbing the animal. And you should always aim to do this with wildlife. You're here to observe, not to disturb. So we just moved to a different location just to try and work with the light from the sunrise on the water. And so whilst we wait for any waterfall to sort of waterfowl to come by, I've noticed these two Canada geese sitting on the edge of the water with a beautiful natural frame from two trees. So I'll grab a quick shot with the 70-200, which I really like to show wildlife in its natural environment, because you're able to compose a shot with the environment as opposed to just going straight for the close-up. So I've just spotted this great crested grebe on the other side of the pond, so I'm making my way there because the water is perfectly still, so I'm hoping to get some nice painterly photographs with it in the middle. If we're lucky, we might see another individual later, maybe a couple of them, doing their mating dance, which is always quite funny to watch. But for the moment, it's just this one lone individual, and I'll try and compose it in this abstract water picture. So I'm trying to not get the fencing in the way. As usual, I'll get low down. You have to accept to get quite dirty and just wait for it to do something. So I'm quite pleased with the look. Now I just need to wait for it to move out of this fencing, just to clean up the background a little bit. So in terms of settings here, it's still quite dark, so I'm using the lens at maximum aperture, so f4, about a 500th of a second, because the IS on the 600 allows me to get quite slow, and ISO speed of 1600. So here's quite interesting. It's stopping for a bit of grooming, so this is where I enjoy using the R system, because I can seamlessly switch to video. And so I'll try and grab a shot. There it is, the autofocus is latched onto the bird. I don't have to do anything, just make sure to keep it in frame and not shake too much. So you just saw me taking pictures with the RF 600mm f4, which is one of Canon's flagship lenses. These are very expensive lenses, but worth every penny, especially if you're going to be shooting in low light or fast action. But that doesn't mean you cannot get a good shot with more affordable options. And Canon offers this amazing, very lightweight, compact zoom, 100 to 500, which is extremely versatile. And with the extender on, gives me just as much reach. And with wildlife that is not too quick, you're able to achieve really good results in such a lightweight package. So I've spotted a red-head duck, and I'll try and take a similar shot to the one at the grebe I just took. And you'll see that with a bit of patience and some computer trickery, you'd be hard-pushed to tell the difference. So here in the settings, the main drawback of compact zooms is the compromise is on the aperture, and so with the 1.4x I'm currently shooting an f10, which when it's low light like this can be a bit penalizing. But it's such a light lens that you're able to drop the shutter speed way down. I'm a 1/320th of a second. Just need to watch out for subject motion blur, but the duck is pretty still, so no risk of that. And cranked up the ISO to 6400, which 10 years ago I would never do, but today with the newest sensor technology, it's amazing what you're able to clean up in post, and the noise is very greatly controlled on the latest sensor technology. Just like the grebe, I was waiting for it to align with the beach at the back as opposed to the fencing, because I always try to exclude any man-made objects from my wildlife photography shots. And so it's nicely positioned now, so I can fire away. So as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to get close to maybe a pair of grebes, and I've noticed this one nesting really close to the banks, and I think they did this because they would rather be disturbed by people than have their nest predated on by foxes, which is a smart move if you ask me. And I've noticed that they do the rounds between the nest and wherever they go fishing, and so there is this convenient gap in the reeds where I'll be waiting and see if they can get past, and using the 70-200 and using the 2.8 aperture, I'll use the reeds as a foreground, sort of a blurry foreground interest to frame the bird, but they often do sort of weird mating dance, and in case that happens, I have the R3 with the 100-500 for the reach, so I'll see what happens. In any case, I'm prepared, and I've got the options from all the way from 70 to 500. Okay, so I've just spotted the two grebes starting the mating dance. They perfect this over the years and then try to replicate each other's moves, and they look left and right in turns. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the tilty screen on the R5 to be able to have a lower composition and closer to the water. It's really convenient to be able to flip the screen this way, because looking through the EVF right now is not an option. So we're just about to get closer to rabbits and kits. This time of year you get the youngs that just play around their burrows. They are quite wary of people, so I'll just do some quick explanations before we go. I try to sort of stay downwind because they have a really good sense of smell. What is probably going to happen is going to get close and they're all going to disappear in their burrows, and I'll just lie flat downwind and wait for them to think the danger is clear and pop out again. And I'll try and align with the sun that just broke over the horizon, just to get see if we can get any of that backlit rim light on the fur. So let's give it a shot. So I've just spotted the first pairs of ears, and I always try and confirm my subject and see where they are before I make my approach. So here what I'll do is I'll try and go a bit closer and then find a position when I have a good view of the holes and sit and wait. As previously with the geese, no sudden move, and always check the surroundings, because just because you don't see a rabbit, that doesn't mean that the rabbit doesn't see you. Again, here I chose the 100-500 for the versatility, because at the moment I need the reach. But if I get close enough, I can get creative with the compositions, and that's not something you can do easily with a long prime. And as you can see, the light is very, very harsh now, so a small aperture definitely isn't an issue. And now we wait. Don't know if you can notice the motion of the grass, but as you can see, it's blowing left to right, so away from where my subject is. So I'm hoping that in a couple of minutes an unsuspecting rabbit will pop out for a quick portrait. So here the focusing is very challenging because we've got just two little ears popping out of the grass. And one of the benefits of using the Mirrorless R system is you no longer have a optical viewfinder but a electronic viewfinder, so you're able to magnify up to 10 times and really fine-tune the manual focus to make sure you're focusing on the fine hair of the fur. Poking its head over the grass, but I've just moved location to get a clearer view over the entrance of the hole, and so I'll see if I can get a more unobstructed view of that little ball of fluff. This is where using a very light and compact lens like the 100 to 500 really is helpful, because you're able to stay in these very good positions for a long time. So the rabbits didn't come out of their hole, but I took some interesting shots taking advantage of the topography, try and make use of all the ridges and the holes. I think they probably are not too happy with me here, so I'm not going to overstay my welcome. But just as important as the approach is, it's the way you exit an area. It needs to be as slow and controlled, and always keep the animal welfare in mind. So I'll just take as much time as it took me to get here to get out. And like on the approach, stay really low and no sudden movement. Because again, just because you don't see a rabbit doesn't mean a rabbit doesn't see you. So I just spent about 15-20 minutes with the rabbits, hoping that something would happen. But you know, that's the thing with wildlife photography. That's what keeps it exciting, is you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes nothing. But it pays off to stay in the same spot for a long time, because that's when you get to see the animal in its natural behavior. And if I can give you one anecdote, and that's probably what led to my favorite picture I've ever taken, is when I was up in the Arctic. I spent about 5 hours motionless in the snow, surrounded by 4 Arctic foxes. And the first couple of hours, they were acting really strangely, just because they were curious about what I was as a human, and so the way they were behaving was unnatural. And after a while, they got bored of me and started doing what Arctic foxes do, and this is when I got to capture their natural behavior. And this is when you get to connect with the animal in its setting and doing what it's supposed to do. So sitting there and observing is really worth doing. Don't rush, don't chase, and just sit and wait, and you might be rewarded. So now these 3 mandarin ducks in the grass, 2 males, 1 female. And I'm taking advantage of the wide aperture of the 70-200 to get some close-ups with nice subject separation. Some really nice specular highlights from the dappled light coming into the bush behind that duck. Some beautiful results. Our system autofocus latches onto the eye really quickly, so I don't have to worry about autofocus. The camera does it for me, and I can just focus on the composition. That makes a big change from the DSLR days where you had to focus, then recompose. Now I can keep the subject in focus and only worry about the composition. wanted to finish the day on a colourful note. So this time of year in the Is a bit of implementation, we've got the bloom happening, so lots of very colourful background. And here we've got a few ducks that are posing nicely for us. So I'll get in tight with the 100 to 500 with the 1.4 extender, and that will allow me to sort of pick my subject and compose with the reflection and a bit of colour in the background. So I'm just waiting for that mandarin to go into position with the bloom in the background. I think if I wait a little bit more, we might get lucky. Sometimes it's worth experimenting with different grips. So here I'm going for the vertical grip, which is integrated in the Canon R3, just to include a bit more breathing room top and bottom of the frame where the bloom is visible. In preparation for this shoot, Canon and Clifton Cameras asked me if I wanted to try anything, and I've always been curious about these new 600 and 800mm F11 RF lenses. This is a brand new design because it's only recently that we've been able to have lenses able to, and cameras able to focus at F11. It's a common misconception to think that at F11 you'll get a very wide depth of field. It might be true for wide-angle lenses, but with such long focal length and with short focusing distances, you'll get a really nice subject separation. It's unbelievably light, and with as much light as we have here, F11 is definitely not an issue, so I'll give it a shot. Well, the first impressions is that the stabilization is rock solid, and I think that has to do with how light the lens is. To be able to shoot 1/200th of a second at 800mm is borderline a miracle. Just so you can see what I'm seeing, I'll shoot a little video clip. With the autofocus doing the hard work for me of keeping the eye in focus the entire time. All I have to do is worry about keeping the subject in frame. Well, this concludes my morning in Richmond Park with Clifton Cameras in association with Canon. I hope you learned a thing or two about the way I use the R system for my wildlife photography and some tips and tricks to incorporate in your own shooting. We had some nice cooperative subjects this morning with the grebes and ducks. Not so much luck with the rabbits, but that's how it goes, and that's what keeps some wildlife photography interesting. It was a pleasure to take you along for the ride, and I hope to see you out there.
So there we have it, another fantastic video. I had a lot of fun filming this one. It was great to be part of it. I did want to be in front of the camera more, but I was learning so much from just observing what Felix was doing. I'd also like to thank Raj from Canon as well, who was helping us out behind the scenes, because often the behind the scene guys don't get the recognition they so richly deserve. Nearly stumbled over my words there. That's how emotional I was getting. If you have made it this far into the video, consider dropping a like, because it really does help to boost the video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure that you leave a comment if you learn anything or if you've got anything to add. I'm going to head off now and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day at Richmond Park, and I'll see you next time for another video. Got very bright. That's the problem with doing manual exposure, you see.